Hey, everybody knows middle school is full of unknowns for both kids and parents. So much is changing that we often don't know what to do. Well, in today's video, we're gonna help parents get a head start on leading their kids into that dreaded middle school. Hey there, my name is Dennis Poulette, and on this channel I help parents lead and launch their teenagers. So if you're a parent of a teenager, I would love for you to subscribe so you never miss a video. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with Kristen Ivy, the co-author of the Phase Project, which is an incredible resource that helps adults understand the growth and development of kids from birth to young adulthood. I'll leave some links in the description below if you want to check them out. But in our conversation, she gave a ton of tips about parenting middle schoolers. So what I wanted to do in today's video is share part of that interview with you, and I hope it brings you value.
I think that one of the things that I notice in child development and human development studies is there's a lot of energy on the beginning of a kid's life, the new baby phases. All of us remember in that season of life, there's something changing every few months. And so we become a little bit like fixated on like, okay, are they crawling yet? Are they sitting up yet? Are they reaching their milestones?
You're more aware of whether you've messed up too, right? Like, oh, they're not crawling, yeah, so I've done something wrong, or yeah.
It's every few months, right? Something's changing every few months. And so really, I guess these studies are still relatively new, and a lot of times what happens is adolescence gets lumped into one category as if like humanity reaches the age of 12 and then it's like, pretty much the same till 25, Right. And we know that that's true. That's not the case. As a high school teacher, I just got a front row seat to everything that changes from a 9th grader to a 10th grader. And oh my goodness, I mean, those classrooms are fundamentally different environments. If you have 9th graders in a classroom all day long, every day for a year, and then you see those people, in 10th, everything's different in 10th grade. I just forget. My adult world moves so, I'm in this, I think our adult pace is different than our kids. And I so often make the mistake of looking up and assuming that my 11-year-old son is essentially the same person that he was when he was really 9. I mean, forget 10. I go back 2 years. I just think he's kind of should be the same person. And I'm like, I know you, I get you. And really, I've missed what is changing about him and the shifts that he's making. And that's what I think matters so much. I'll go straight to, you mentioned 6th grade, like somewhere in the 11-year-old range. There is just so much that could be said about this phase. We gathered educators, teachers who taught this grade for a very long time, taught 6th grade specifically, counselors, pediatricians who work with this age in particular. And it's such an interesting place to be because you still have a kid in your home who's a kid, and yet they know that they're moving into adolescence, I think a lot more than we tend to recognize it as parents. A lot of the puberty changes are internal at first, so you don't see them. Those hormones, I mean, man, they are changing on the inside, and it's not necessarily physically obvious yet, unless, you tend to see maybe a little bit more emotional outbursts. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's tears, maybe it's anxieties, but their emotions tend to be really heightened. And along with that, there's an abundance of self-awareness. There's something in the brain that actually begins to change somewhere around the age of 10 and 11, where a kid begins for the first time to really self-reflect in a different way. And so they become overly self-conscious in those phases. And oftentimes I run the risk of the thing that helps me relate to a sophomore is I just have the spiritual gift of sarcasm. It just comes natural. But in the 11-year-old phase, it can be really dangerous. This is where you can do damage to a kid's self-esteem and really wound them without intention, and need to apologize and go back and go, I'm so sorry, because they are extremely self-conscious in this phase. You tend to, when we're not in a global pandemic, see this age group really traveling in big groups. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody goes to the bathroom together. Everybody goes to the mall together. tend to congregate in mass. One of my favorite things that I noted about this age is it mattered so much who else was coming to anything. Youth event, you name it. It was
Yeah.
never about what they wanted to do. It was always about who else was going to be there. Um, and I think some of those things are important for us to remember, that it's not necessarily to be scoffed at or ridiculed or trained out of our kids, but some of those things are a natural progression of how they're forming identity, how they're beginning to understand themselves, and that we really do have to have a very, I guess, nurturing approach, even in the middle of a lot of anxieties in those early middle school type phases. So paying attention to their friends is important, which I think is scary as a parent, if I'm really honest right now in the time that we're in, because my kids are kind of in that zone as well. And it's harder than ever for them to have those human connections. But if I were speaking to a fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade parent in this phase right now, it would be to pay attention to the way that they can still have human connection, whatever that looks like. That their ability to navigate friendships right now is very significant to their formation of identity. And whether that means Skype or, FaceTime online, Facebook Messenger kids, or whatever it is that you feel
Right.
comfortable with, you are. But really leaning into that, I think, matters a lot.
That is some incredible stuff from Kristen. If you want to check out the entire interview, then you can go to this link right here. I'll also put it in the description below, and you can watch or listen to the podcast. And if you're interested in more videos about parenting, well, I've put together a playlist right here. So make sure you go check out that playlist about leading and launching your teenagers.